Home buying in a tight market, a conversation with two amazing realtors, wonderful lender, and attorney. We will cover a lot of information today, so feel free to put your questions in the Q&A. And after we are done with the webinar, we'll do our best to answer most of the questions that you're asking at the end. We will also send out an email to everyone who has attended the presentation. If we do not have your email address, please feel free to email kmhomes@bairdmorner.com. So now you can sit back, relax, and let's get this started.
Let's do it. Okay, this is our team of panelists on the webinar today. My name is Kaley. I'm a realtor with Baird and Warner. I'm also part of the K&M Homes team, K meaning Kiana, M standing for Mary, K&M Homes. And we are just a bunch of people who have experience buying and selling houses with our clients, and we work together a lot. And we decided to do this webinar because right now is a very unique time in the market. Kiana?
Hi, my name is Kiana Szostak, and I'm also a realtor with Baird and Warner, and I'm part of the K&M Homes team.
Tricia McLaughlin with Key Mortgage, and I am a mortgage banker with 30 years of experience.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Chmielewski. I am the managing attorney for JMC Law Group. My firm specializes in residential real estate. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and we do approximately 800 closings a year.
Next slide. Okay, so my daughter likes to do fun facts. She'll go on the internet and she'll pull up a fun fact and she'll be like, Mom, here's a fun fact. So here's one that I found. Avocados are lasting longer than most homes in today's market. It's not a long time. So what's going on in today's market? It is just incredibly tight inventory. And how can I describe that? I'm going to go through the different types of markets here. So the first one is a buyer's market. And in this picture, the house is bigger than the person, because normally in a buyer's market, there's a lot more houses that are available. So you will have 6 or more months of inventory. We honestly haven't been in a buyer's market since, I would say, early 2014. So basically, there are houses that are for sale that don't get sold at the end of the month. And then the next month, more houses come up for sale. And some of those don't get sold. And so it kind of piles up. That's a buyer's market. That's when a buyer can sit back and say, I'm not sure if I want that house. Let me take a week to think about it. Next slide. In a stable market, the number of houses that are out there for sale and the number of buyers are pretty equivalent. So you kind of have the houses coming on the market, all the buyers buy up those houses, and then more houses come on. And it's kind of an equal footing. We'll normally have about 4 to 6 months of inventory on the market at one time. Basically demand is keeping up with inventory. Next slide. Right now though, you can see, one go back. Right now you can see the person here, the big, the number of buyers that we have are much greater than the number of houses that are out there for sale. We currently have between 0 and 3 months of inventory. So there are actually not enough houses to keep up with the number of buyers that are out there. And that's because we have very good interest rates. And actually the affordability, there's an affordability statistic. The affordability to buy a house right now is phenomenal. It's been the best that it's been in almost 20 years. So people are saying, hey, right now is the time to get into a house because I can get this really low rate and I could afford it. And I wanted to demonstrate what the market has looked like over the last 10 years. If you could go to the next slide. There we go. So this is the month's supply of inventory from 2011 until today. So you can see back in 2011, we were definitely in a seller's market in a buyer's market where we had 6 or more months of inventory all the way up to about 2014. And then we cycle a little bit. We have different bumps throughout the year where the market goes up and down throughout the year, but it stayed pretty stable until about last year. And now it just came on down. And now we're in the situation where we have today, where there's not enough houses on the market. You can see the inventory number coming down lower. So.
Go for it, Mary.
No, go ahead.
So basically, welcome to multiple offer myth busting. Excerpts from the internet. Basically what we're here today is to give you better or more workable alternatives when submitting an offer in this market. As Mary said, we're in a seller's market, so we have to get a little crafty, but we want to know how to submit these offers and to understand where we're at in the market now. So let's start with our first myth, Mary, which is it better to opt for a condo rather than a house?
Well, so this is a myth that I saw out on the internet, and I think I want to bust this one. If you want a house, then look for a house. I want you to be able to stay in your residence once you buy it for 5 years, so that you could get, you could cash out at the end of 5 years or longer and have some equity. So if you're, I think the general idea though of this myth, opting for a condo rather than a house, and honestly, condos are just as much demand as houses are right now. So it really doesn't help you one way or the other. I think that the better thing to do is to expand your options. So you could maybe look at different neighborhoods. If you're focused on one neighborhood, look at a couple of other neighborhoods in that same area that are similar, or a couple different towns in that same area that are similar. You could limit your must-haves. And this is a conversation that I have a lot of times with my buyers. There are things in a house that can be changed and things about a house that can't be changed. Example, my buyer just currently, we were looking at houses. She liked the updates in one house. It was smaller. She liked the size of another house. It was bigger, no updates. And really the updates that she wanted, I said, just take those updates, find a general contractor, put them into this house that you like size-wise. And she's like, yeah, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad I didn't just pass on this house. Thank you, thank you. So those are things that can be changed. Things that cannot be changed would be like, you know, a 5-bedroom house with no garage, or a house that backs to a busy street, or those types of things. So those are the types of things that you should keep on your must-have list. Things that are difficult to put into a house after you're already in. You can also save a little bit longer, okay? So why would you do that? Because if you save a little longer and bump up to that next level of houses, there are fewer buyers the higher you go up price-wise. So if you save a little bit longer, have more money to put down, you might be able to bump up, and you're in competition with fewer people then for the houses. Also, while you're saving, I want you to go to open houses and figure out what you like, what you don't like, figure out your must-haves versus, you know, you like to have list. And then, you know, always talk with your team. Your realtor is your expert. So your realtor will help you come up with a plan. You tell your realtor what you want, what you're looking for. They'll advise you about that whole must-have thing, or save longer, or expand your area of interest. They'll come up with a plan for you. But if you know exactly where you want to be in a specific neighborhood, your realtor can reach out to other realtors. Your realtor can send out mailers to potential sellers. Your realtor knows the private network where they could go and look for listings within that desired area. So there's lots of things your realtor could do behind the scenes to help you get into the house of your dreams. Next slide, please. Kiana, what do you think about making an offer without actually going to see the house yourself?
I think that if you are someone who lives out of state, I think this could be a great option. So for those of you who don't know what sight unseen means, it means making an offer or buying a house without touring it in person. So for someone who lives out of state, this would be a great option because you're out of state and this is really the only option you have. But for someone who actually lives here, it is important that you get into these properties, you get a feel of the house, because you're putting yourself at a greater risk at failing to see defects in that property or area with a sight unseen. So you're really depending on other people's opinions and their feeling of the house, their feeling of the area. Again, there's pros and cons. And Mary and I have run into situations where we had a listing where it was a husband and wife. The wife really loved the house. The husband said, okay, you know, love the house from the pictures. And then after the home inspection, everything else went through. The husband no longer wanted the house. So the seller said, I will never do that again. And that was also in a different market. Now we're in a market where you are talking about multiple offers. And when it really comes down to it, it's, does a seller with 20 offers on the table, do they want to accept an offer with someone sight unseen when they might have a similar offer with someone who's actually come in and they've actually seen the property? So to bust that myth, we're saying just be ready. Watch your target home several times a day. So when your realtor is sending you those daily reports, it's important that you go through, you look through them, you put notes in the system, you send that information over to your realtor. Constantly keep checking. Do not put off seeing it, especially a new listing. If you can go within that first 24 hours, get in there, go see the property. And then as Mary mentioned earlier, we have the P&L, what we call it, the private network listing. So your realtor can actually go into the system and they can set up a search for themselves to see when homes that are not quite ready to go on the market, but the seller may be willing to show that property, or maybe they're getting it ready, they might actually be able to get you in before it actually hits the regular MLS. So I would say definitely ask your realtors about it. And then also having a really good team in place. That's the biggie, is have your team in place, work with a really amazing lender who is going to not just pre-qualify you, but get you pre-approved, really walking you through those steps. Having a really good inspector in place and having an amazing attorney who is going to make sure that they're walking through the process with you too throughout the process. Next slide. So, Jason.
Attorneys.
What are your thoughts on making simultaneous offers on multiple properties?
Well, let's bust this myth. This myth actually can get you in a lot of trouble. You could actually get yourself stuck in, two different contracts when you can't afford to buy two different homes. Technically, then you'd be acting in bad faith, which could get you in trouble with those other, with those sellers. They could come after you for acting in bad faith, expenses, costs that they may have lost by taking your offer and not taking a real offer that's on the table. I had a client actually call me and ask me that, hey, I keep losing out on these multiple offers. What do you think about me just throwing like 5 or 6 offers out there on properties and see what happens? And, I told him exactly that, look, that's a bad idea because of this. Now, the best thing for you to do is, be prepared for each offer. Give your highest and best. Don't play that game in this market. This isn't a buyer's market where you can give, a low ball offer and think somebody's going to come back or that house is still going to be there. You have to go in with your best foot forward, cleanest contract. And I've told my clients, look, if you want me to review it before you look it over, let me know. I'll make myself available. Try not to, put things in there that are going to have to get cleaned up, during your attorney review, or make your offer not look the best, and that could be from the closing date to the tax expirations, to things you're asking for to be left behind. I mean, it could be a number of different things that we could look at to make your offer look the strongest. And then last but not least is making sure your realtor is presenting it in a very professional manner. Submitting it via email and just hoping they look at it, not the best thing to do. You want an agent that's going to look out for your best interest, going to submit that offer, follow up with a phone call, maybe wait 24 hours, follow up again. You want this house, you need a team on your side that's going to help you get that. Okay. So that brings us to myth number 4, Tricia. Bid high and hope the appraisal comes in low.
That is correct. I'm the money gal. Next slide, please. So The one thing I will say about this situation is I have a lot of my clients who they'll put the offer in. So the list price is 240. They'll go in with a offer price of 260. That does not necessarily mean that that appraised value is going to come back at 260. As a lender, we're going to go with what the value is. So if the offer price is 260 and my value comes back at 240, we have questions. The first thing is I tell everybody, you need to we circle back to Jason or your attorney, and we say, okay, what are we going to do here? It doesn't not necessarily mean that you are going to go bring in your $20,000, but that is something that you have to obtain in this situation. You might have to, if you decide, hey, I really want this house. So when you make these offers, we got to make sure that A, you do have the money, okay? Because if you don't, and the value does come back at 260, then guess what? Or if the value does come back at 240 and you still want the house, you got to come up with the difference. So it's very, very important when you're putting these offers in that not necessarily will it appraise out. Okay. And I know a lot of people are doing this right now. I'm hearing it all the time. They're going $5,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 over what list price is. Okay. So you can increase your down payment. Absolutely. If you're already putting, 10% down, you can increase it. That's not a problem. Can you change your financing terms? Absolutely. Cash requires, little from the seller. Conventional requires less. So what I mean by that is if you are a conventional buyer and you're already putting 5 to 10% down and you want to go and put in more money into the transaction, for sure. But you got to look at this and expect to pay the price. It's a seller's market right now. So even though it might not appraise, okay, you still have to go into this thinking you might have to pay over. And the other thing too is I am getting a lot through my underwriting where you can actually waive, the appraisal is actually waived. So we put it through the system as long as you're putting 20% down. Good jobs, good savings account, good money down, we possibly could get that appraisal waived. So then you don't even need that. And we've had that situation happen. We come back to you and we tell you, we don't need it. We don't even need an appraisal. And you got the client signs off on it. But we have to be careful about offering to pay the appraisal shortage. So what I mean is you've got to, if that happens, you have to go back to your realtor, either Kiana or Mary. You got to contact Jason, whoever you're using for your attorney. And we have to make sure that you understand what's going on here, because if you don't have the money and you're putting in these offers, it can become a problem. Next slide, please. And it's Mary. The standout letter to the seller.
Yeah, so what we have in the marketplace now with multiple offers is buyers who get the idea that they could just write a letter to the seller and that's how they'll stand out. And, in a stable market, I would say, yeah, you could definitely stand out writing a letter. In today's market, it's a little bit trickier, okay? So next slide, please. If sellers may not read your letter, and here's why. Here's an example. Kiana and I had a listing and we had 21 offers, okay? 21 offers. Many people wrote letters to the seller. Seller did not read not even one of the letters. And that's because there's just too many. It was an overwhelming situation. So, and even in a situation where there are fewer multiple offers, maybe let's say 3 or 4, some agents don't share the buyer letters with their seller because they don't want the seller to be swayed by something that's more emotional rather than the facts and the figures in front of them. In addition, some letters can have the opposite effect that you want. They could rub the seller in the wrong way. I have an example where recently there was a letter written to a seller and the wrong address was on the letter. It wasn't the seller's home. And that just shows you that that buyer didn't get a different home that they had bid on and just copied and pasted into this new letter with that old address in there. So got to be really careful with those. So here's a couple things that we could do instead. We're going to go to the houses that we want to see, and we're going to treat that seller's property with respect. We're going to take off our shoes or wear booties. We're going to say please and thank you if the seller is there. And even if the seller's not there, we don't say bad things about the house while we're in the house, okay? In this day and age, we have people who have those cameras. We don't know if the video is on or off. We can't see the cameras because they're so small. They're supposed to post something saying that they have a camera up and you're being monitored, but still, not everyone does. So when we're in the house, we're not going to disparage anything because that seller, if they overhear that, they will remember you. In addition, we're going to treat the seller's agent with respect. And this is really on the shoulders of your buyer's agent, the agent that you're working with, who's working for you. We need to make sure that we're treating the seller's agent with respect, okay? And really the agents who have experience being a seller's agent, like Kiana and myself, we know how to treat seller's agents when we're working with you as a buyer. Next slide, please. Jason, do you think that buyers should waive the inspection contingency?
Oh, let's bust that myth.
Okay.
Unless you are buying it as a complete gut rehab. You're a builder, you're a flipper, you're a rehabber, somebody like that, and you're trying to put your best foot forward, then sure, great. But if you're anybody else, if you're planning to live there, you're planning to rent it for a rental, no, you don't want to do those things because you do not want to get yourself into buying the quote unquote money pit. Prime example I had, and I always say this to clients that sometimes a home inspection is sometimes more important when you buy a single family than you buy a condominium, but that's not always the case. In the condominium, you're not always responsible for as much personally, but the building could have issues too. And your inspector's looking at those as well. So I had a client that was living in their unit, wanted to buy it from their landlords, noticed a stress fracture in the ceiling in one area, just never thought about it, brought their inspector in, had him take a look at it. He looked at it up top, looked at it in the basement, noticed that the building actually had structural problems. So something that they didn't even think was a problem turned out to be the reason why they didn't buy this place. And rightfully so, that building is going to have some problems down the road. Illinois is a buyer beware state. So it's a buyer's responsibility to know what they're buying, to not rely on seller disclosures. Seller disclosures are based on, hey, what's their actual knowledge of something? Seller could live in a house for 20 years. They might think their house is perfect. I will tell you right now, in my experience, it's not perfect. There are things wrong, but they're not aware of them. They're not going through their house. They're not looking for problems. The inspection gives us the big overview of the property, whether we want to go or not go on a property. Now, if you want to make your offer look a little bit more attractive, we could always add in an as-is provision. It does make us look a little bit more attractive on that aspect. But as an attorney, I'll tell you, an as-is provision for a buyer still gives you that protection. You're still able to check out the property. You're still able to do an inspection. If there's major issues wrong, you still have the ability to get out of the deal or try to renegotiate something with them. The only thing the as-is provision is doing is preventing you from asking for little things that are wrong, okay? You always want to protect yourself. You want to hire a certified inspector, somebody that's been in the business for a while, and that they understand the property and the market that we're in. You might have a brand new inspector that's never inspected a condo before, or never looked at a house that has a crawl space. These are all different little things that you want these guys to have experience in. And I know Mary and Kiana work with great inspectors. and there's a lot of them out there that you guys can rely on. Next slide. Brings us to myth number 7, Tricia. Let's skip the contingency on the sale closing of your house when you have to sell before you buy.
Yes, so this is where you have to definitely have a lender in place to know if you can financially do this. And so the bottom line is, this is definitely something where you have to make sure, if you're going out to put in an offer, and you know in the back of your mind that, yes, I have to sell my house before I buy my next home, but you're going to write it up as not contingent. So this is where you sit down with me. We go over all your debts, all your liabilities, and see, can you financially go ahead and buy with having your own the mortgage that you're in now. And with Mary and Kiana, they cannot write something if we know, because I cannot give them a pre-approval if we know that you do have to sell before you buy. That's the bottom line, because you're misrepresenting yourself, and they can't do that to the seller. So there's a couple things though now that's back. Bridge loans, which those were not around for a long, long time, but now they are. It's a short-term finance. It's 12 months, and it's an interest-only payment, but it's something, if you have equity in your property and you can afford to have 2 payments, that bridge loan payment and the new mortgage, you can do that. You can also do a home equity loan. Okay, a lot of the times though, you'd have to do the home equity loan prior to putting that house on the market. But a lot of people now want to go and buy, get situated, and then put the house on the market. And as long as you can afford to do that, that's a perfect example. And that's something that you can take advantage of. The other one is a 401k loan. And you could talk to your financial advisor who holds the 401k. You could take your money out of that for short term, pay yourself back. And once you sell your home, you could put that money, whatever your proceeds are, put that back in. But now you are putting a contract in that's going to be non-contingent, that's going to make you look better, because now sellers are not going to take contingency offers. They have way too many offers to choose from. So the contingency factor has got to come off the table. So these are several different options now that you can do. Next slide. Myth number 8, Kiana, pay cash, bid low.
No.
That was easy.
Yeah. No, we don't want to bid low, even if you are a cash paying buyer. Next slide. We want to make our best offer. This is the same thing we would tell our buyers who have a loan. Make your best offer. We are not in the kind of market where, again, going back to the slides, where we were in more of a buyer's market or even in a stable market, where you could kind of, play with going in a little bit lower. Again, you're dealing with homes, as soon as they come on the market, you're dealing with anywhere from 5 to 20, 30 offers on these properties. So if you can pay cash, then do it. Paying cash equivalent or higher than other offers always stands out. So, I mean, if you make an offer on a property that's listed at 250 and you come in at 245, but then you have offers that are coming in at 255 and 260, at the end, the seller is going to net out more by possibly going with these offers. So cash doesn't matter when an offer $1,000 or more lower, the sellers tend to opt for the higher offers. Low offers tend to offend any seller in this market, whether you're cash or whether you are contingent on financing. So cash or not, low offers can offend a seller in any market, but in particular this market, when you are putting an offer on a house that just came on the market. Now, maybe if we're talking about a house that's been on the market for 100 days, 60 days, maybe even 2 weeks, maybe we then can discuss, you know, going a little bit lower, but when a house first hits the market, you want to put your best foot forward, and then pay what the house is worth. At the end of the day, that's why you have realtors who can go in and we can look at what the median sales prices are. And a lot of buyers who are looking in some of these areas, they're looking at multiple homes in these areas. So you guys already have a feeling of kind of what these homes are going for. So I say, pay what the house is worth, put your best foot forward, and make the best offer possible, cash or not. Next slide.
So how do you know what the best offer is? I'm going to take this one, Kiana.
Okay, go ahead.
Jump in. So the house that you're looking at, there will be comparable sales to the house that you're looking at making an offer on. And your realtor pull all those comparable sales and show them to you. So as a realtor, Kiana and I, maybe the last 6 months of sales within that same like 1 or 2 mile radius of similar houses. So if it's a 4-bedroom house, we're going to pull up 4-bedroom. And if it's a 2-story house, we're going to pull up 2-story houses. But you have to put that into perspective of where the market is headed. And this is your median sale price. This is just for the past 3 years. But 6 months ago, median sale prices were lower than where they are today. So if I'm pulling up something from 6 months ago, is that a good reflection of what's going on today? Well, no, maybe not, because you could see how much higher that we are here in the beginning of 2021 versus the middle of 2020. So the objective is to make the right offer. So look at those comps, absolutely, but then also look at where the market is headed, because if it's headed up, you're going to have to go higher than what the comps say in order to get your house. Next slide. Myth number 9. You know, I'm not sure about this, Tricia. You offer to pay the seller's closing costs? That's kind of backwards to me. I thought that the sellers used to pay the buyer's closing costs.
I know. So over 30 years, doing this over 30 years, yeah, this has come to play now. Yeah. And Jason and Kiana and Mary have all spoken about is you want to make sure that you have a strong offer. So the bottom line is now, you know, before it used to be flipped. You would go in, you'd put an offer in, the borrower would ask for closing costs. Now, no longer. Just not in this market right now at this time. So what we could do is you can consider, as you being the buyer, you can consider paying some of your seller's closing costs. Now you have to be careful with this, because if you're a buyer that's minimum down 3%, 5%, maybe even 10%, you have to show that you have that money to help. Now, I'm not saying you're going to pay $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, but maybe you want to pay $1,000 or $2,000 to help towards title fees or something of that nature to make that offer a little bit stronger. You do have to be a conventional buyer. Okay, the government, you can't do it through a government loan, but I'm seeing it, I'm hearing about it. It's getting some sizzle out there that people are using it. So if there's something that you that you want to make a little bit stronger, you can ask, you can do that. You can talk to your realtor about doing that. Increase your earnest money. And I've seen people gone from, 200,000 average, maybe be 1,000, 2,000. Maybe you want to put $5,000 down. Okay. You want a clean offer. And Jason brought that up before. You want to do that. You don't want to be putting in things in there where the seller's going to come back, change, or even just look at it. Perception is everything. They're going to review your offer and say, yeah, I don't like this, and move on to the next. They have a lot of choices. And just remember that when you're putting that offer in. And be very flexible on closing date. And this is, again, goes back to what I said before with a non-contingent. If you want to get set up shop, set up a new house somewhere, maybe you don't want to, if you don't want to close within 30 to 60 days, you want to give the seller 75 to 80, that's great. And that's helping. I've seen a lot of people, write up contracts in March. They're not closing till the end of May or beginning of June, because that seller has to find a place to buy. So if you're flexible with your closing date, that's going to help out and be more attractive. I just had a contract accepted, and that was the one reason why my clients got it, because they are not in a hurry and they're going to allow the seller to stay in that property for a bit so they could find something. Next slide, please. Jason, tell us a little bit about realtor, lender, attorney. Are they all the same?
No. Let's bust that myth. Next slide. They're not all the same. Working with an experienced individual, experienced lender, attorney, real estate agent means everything. Working with an experienced team where people are working, that have worked together in the past, like we all have, is very important, because if Trish needs something, she knows how to get a hold of me. Kiana and Mary need me, they know they can text me and I can get on, my email or send something out for them right away to make sure that we're on top of things, that we're doing things for our clients and making sure that, again, their best foot is being put forward. Honestly, out of all the myths, I think this is the most important one, because if you work with an experienced team, they're going to know all those other myths. They're going to direct you in the right direction on how to handle those things, what's going to work best for you and your situation. This is one of the most expensive purchases anyone is ever going to make in their life. And it's important to work with a team that understands that and knows how to make sure that you're protected. Ask for referrals, talk to family, talk to friends. The referrals they give you, ask them why. Why did you like working with Mary? Why did Trish do such a good job for you? Why did Jason get this closed for you so fast? Why did Kiana get that deal that no one else could get for you? Meet with them or talk with them ahead of time before you make that final decision. And again, it's that one team, it makes a huge difference. I work with a lot of repeat realtors that I've worked with over the years and lenders. And I know when I work with people that I've worked with in the past, we know what to expect out of each other. We know how to help you the best way possible. Not saying that if I work with an agent that I've never worked with before, we're not going to do that, but things might not run as smooth for you. And in this market, honestly, it is probably one of the most important things. You want the transaction to move as smooth as possible. You want to get through attorney review and inspection provisions as quickly as possible. You want to get your offer submitted as quickly as possible. You want your loan cleared to close as quickly as possible. I mean, I have a deal right now that our seller, because my buyer is more than qualified, but we need a couple more days before we got the clear to close. And the seller basically said, okay, well then I want to extend the closing out by that same time period, which obviously doesn't work for my client because he's in a rental and his rental, expires at the end of the month. So, it's, and there was an issue with that lender that caused not a huge delay, but enough delay that is now causing us more problems in this process. So, working together with the team, we're going to know how to address issues that pop up together a little faster than normal. Next slide.
Okay, so thank you. We're going to take your questions in a minute. So if you guys want to type out your questions in the Q&A, if you're on Zoom or in Facebook, just type out a comment on the meeting. But so the basics are there. Multiple offers are happening right now. There's nothing that we could do about that because the inventory is so low. However, what you can do, you are the boss of your team. You hire your best team possible. Do your homework, figure out where you want to be, go to open houses, and come up with a plan with your realtor on how you want to go about finding your dream home.
And you have to be patient. We may not get the first offer or the second offer, but we will continue the search together to make sure that when the right house comes on the market, that you are prepared. And again, it goes back to doing your homework and making sure you have the right team in place. But we will keep working hard, stay positive, and you will persevere. Thank you.
Next slide. this is our contact information once again. We want to go ahead and look at the questions, Kiana. Do you want to take one of them?
Let's see here. Okay, Austin. Hey, Austin. Was that perspectives about condo versus single family? Any thoughts on multi-family properties as an investment vehicle for young professionals? Mary, I'll let you take that.
Okay, so my husband and I owned apartment buildings back in the day. We owned 2 4-flats. So I am actually a proponent of investment opportunities of multi-unit buildings. I'm not really a fan of buying a condo and renting that out, only because in a condo, you only own the 1 unit, and to rent, some condos are rentable. However, you have to follow all the rules of that condo association, where if your tenant, the person that you have in there, doesn't follow some of the rules, you can be fined for that. If they damage the property, that's your responsibility. So it's actually better if you do like a multi-family home right now, like a 2-flat, a 4-flat. However, those are very low inventory for those types of buildings as well. But I mean, yeah, is that answering your question, Austin? What do you think? Let us know if that.
He has another question too.
Okay.
That
On
one's
the
for you,
top.
Trish.
I'm sorry?
That one's for you.
Yes, on the topic of a contingent purchase, and he stipulates that realtors were telling him to make sure that, you know, you get rid of your property first before you buy. Well, that all comes down to, can you afford both mortgage payments? And do you have the asset to put down on the next one prior to before you buy? Do you have that money put away already? And that would be the biggest reason why somebody would have to get rid of their primary to buy something else, is because they can't afford to have 2 mortgages, or they need the money out of the house that they're trying to sell. So that would be the reason why they would tell you that, you know, get rid of your property first, because of those other options that I've told you. Either A, you can't afford it, or B, you don't have the money to put down. So you have to get rid of that. You have to get rid of that first. And a lot of some people are just doing that just because they do want to get rid of it, and they have a place to go, family, relative, you know, whatever. And when the market, you know, maybe ticks up a little bit with more inventory, then they can snatch it. But at this point, you know, they're taking bridge loans or loans out in order to do that, and they're keeping the other property so that they can buy something right away. So it all depends upon what your financial situation is. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, and I see another question from Austin about the apartment building type thing. Yeah, there's a lot of caveats in buying an apartment building versus a house. A house, you're trying to satisfy yourself. Apartment building, you need to make sure that the income production is there. So your realtor really needs to know what the rents are in that area, comparable rents for that apartment building. Because, for example, if you pay $400,000 for the apartment building, you want to be able to get $4,000 worth of rent per month from that rent from the rentals, or 4,000 minus whatever, if you're going to actually live in
These are
units, minus whatever that one is. So, and that's because there are a lot of other things that we could talk about offline, but that's, I think, the biggest one, is to make sure that the income production is there in that building. Do we have any other questions? Comments from anyone? Jason, you have a question?
Oh, Jason's question's for you.
Oh, sorry. Let me pull it up. Where's the question? Oh, here, let me scroll
Oh,
down.
yeah. Different states not requiring attorneys. That's the question.
Yeah.
No. Well, yeah,
Indiana.
there's lots of states out. Well, yeah, there's lots of states out there that don't require attorneys. You know, Indiana, California, Arizona, Illinois is an attorney state. To be honest with you, and this isn't to, you know, push mine because this is my life, you know, this is my business, but I just don't understand why you would buy anything real estate related and not use an attorney. There are so many different little ins and outs of buying a piece of property that you wouldn't even think of. Title issues, survey issues, issues with the sellers, home inspection items, things that all just have to go across the board that you have to deal with. And if you've never bought or sold a home before, you're not going to know even the first thing to look at or what you're relying on. And you're relying on a title company to do all that stuff for you, which they're not necessarily, you haven't hired them. You haven't vetted them. They're not looking out for your best interest like we are, like I am. You know, it's not like a pair of jeans you buy at the, you know, the mall where you can turn around and take those back. When you buy a house and you close on it, that's your house. You can't just say, oh, there's a 5-day return period. Here you go. I decided I don't like it. There's some issues here. No, that's yours. You now have to turn around and sell that to somebody else with the problems that you now know about it. So yeah, you know, even in states, I've you know, had clients reach out to me from Indiana where they don't use that and ask me questions about different things like that. And, you know, I try to help them. I am from that area, so I have lots of friends and family out there. So, you know, and we try to, you know, you try to help them do the due diligence, but, you know, I've always also recommended them reach out to a real estate attorney in that state. You know, if you have to pay them, you know, I don't know, $4, $5, $6, $1,000, it's worth your investment in your $400,000 property. It's a very small cost to make sure your interests are protected.
Any other questions?
Do we have any on Facebook? The Facebook ones? Nope. Thank you everyone for your time. I want to reiterate that if you want to have a copy of the seminar that we did today, of the webinar, whatever you want to call this thing. I know I keep saying the wrong thing. Slideshow. Then just go ahead and shoot us an email, kmhomes@bairdwarner.com. That's BAIRDWARNER.com. And we will definitely send you a copy of today's. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact us as well. Can we show the contact page again? Who has that?
I believe it was the last slide.
The last slide. Can we show that contact page again, just so that everyone has the ability to contact us? And then go ahead and rate today's webinar if you get a minute. And then thank you so much for coming. Anybody want to say anything?
No, thank you for
Thank
attending.
you all for taking
Yeah.
an
Thank you
hour
all.
on Saturday.
Yeah, enjoy the spring weather.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.